ready to go? Let's do it. All right, it's 3:31, so we're past time. It's our regular meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, City of Crescent City, County of Del Norte, State of California, March 20th, 2018. And we're going to go ahead and call to order, and if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Cowan.
Here.
Commissioner Naffa.
Here.
Chair Inscore.
Here.
Commissioner Greeno.
Here.
Commissioner Howard.
Here. All right, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll open up general public comment. Any member of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. After receiving recognition from myself, please give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any general public comment this afternoon? Seeing no general public comment, we'll close public comment and move on into our open session items. We have 6 items on the consent agenda. The minutes from February 20th, acknowledgement of a receipt letter dated February 21st from Recology regarding the CPI adjustment, acknowledgement of a letter dated February 20th from Hambro WSG in regards to the CPI adjustment, the approval of claim 8115 to American Restore for $165,030 and 3 cents, approve of payment of claim 8138 to Lawrence and Associates for $8536.05 and a budget transfer of $2,600.
Motion approved, Chair.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on our consent items? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Would you please pull the board?
Commissioner Naffa.
Yes.
Chair Inscore.
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Cowan.
Yes.
Very good. It's the end of our consent. We will move on into our regular items with the Treasury report, beginning with the Director's report. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Chair Inscore. So, once again, our agency continues to operate the Del Norte County Transfer Station, the Gasky and Klamath transfer stations for rates that are better than any comparable facility in the region, and we do this without a penny of taxes. We will be closed Sunday, April 1st for Easter, and we were open at all hours appointed and specified during the previous month. Probably one of the quieter and more significant items is item 3.1, and this is the follow-up to completing our financial assurances, which is essentially pledging revenue from the Del Norte County Transfer Station should those revenues be needed to address any corrective action or emergency response at the Crescent City landfill. Now that that process is finalized, we applied for and received approval on reducing our multiplier. This multiplier, essentially, you have a 30-year post-closure maintenance period. So our landfill closed in 2006, and so normally you calculate your annual maintenance costs, and then you multiply those times 30. And that's the number of your liability, and unless you apply to have that 30 reduced year by year by year, it stays at 30. So we've now been approved to reduce that from its current level of 21 to 19. So that single approval reduces the liability associated with the landfill, and therefore the liability of this agency, by $218,719. So that is a big reduction from just a small little letter. So while it just looks like bureaucratese, it makes a big difference on our bottom line, and so that's very, very good news.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'll talk a little bit further about the mattress collection event later on in the meeting. The agenda item 6.1, unfortunately, our shrewd legal counsel noticed that we had failed to publish the appropriate notice prior to this meeting. And so our option is either to publish the full text of that ordinance after the adoption, or to do it next month and publish a summary prior to next meeting. So that would be staff's recommendation. So we're looking that perhaps item 6.1 might be pulled, but I believe the board needs to vote on that action.
Yes, I'd vote to continue it to the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll come up to that.
Full 6-1.
Well, when we get to 6.1, I'm just highlighting as we go through the meeting. Regarding advocacy, based on the board's suggestion that the agency make its opinions more known at the statewide level, I applied for and was accepted as a board member of the California Product Stewardship Organization, California Product Stewardship Council. And we've been a member of this organization since its inception. And that's been a really good thing because most of the new recycling programs that we've seen at the Del Norte County Transfer Station have been product stewardship programs. So currently we have product stewardship programs for household batteries, for carpeting, for paints, stains, and architectural coatings, for household thermostats. So all of these new programs are product stewardship programs, and currently they're looking at new bills regarding pharmaceuticals and sharps collections. So this has been a really important organization, and I'm happy to be associated with it. Also, again, at this board's direction, I've been attending the Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority of rural counties, and that's a good way to keep touch on legislation and what's going on. So the big things that are going on that will affect our agency are essentially the development of regulations for two bills. AB 901 has to do with very comprehensive change in the way we go about our reporting, and SB 1383, which is a statewide law to reduce greenhouse gases and short-term pollutants, and specifically they're looking at methane, which is associated with the anaerobic decomposition of yard debris and food scraps. So there's been a big push primarily in the urban areas, but what happens in the urban areas eventually comes to us. And so a lot of those sorts of details are worked out during the development of regulations.
I'm trying to recall, and can't remember if we touched on this. Was there going to be any exemptions in place for rural California, especially up in here where we have we've attained good air quality, especially in this air quality management district? Can you walk us through that, Ted?
There are likely to be some exceptions, but that's part of what is being worked out in this rule, in the development of the regulations. So it's not clear exactly.
What kind of timeline do we have to comment on it as a JPA?
Both of these are fairly comprehensive things, and they've had a number of sessions already, but in the coming months we can continue to make comments, and that's part of our work with the ESJPA.
Well, again, that just echoes Mr. Howard's encouragement to get our voice there and to get our ears there both.
Absolutely.
It's good stuff.
The other thing I'm currently doing in regards to the ESJPA is I'm advocating with regards to our mattress recycling program. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit further when we get onto that item. And then one other thing regarding personnel and staffing, we have, due to medical leaves and other medical issues for some of our staff, we have opened a recruitment to hire a part-time temporary extra help refuse site attendant over the summer. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions for Mr. Ward, just in summary of the things he's brought up? Some of these we'll talk on a bit more when we hit them on the agenda. Any questions up front? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our treasury reports.
Our finances continue to be overall in the red, but moving towards the black. Our cash balance is last month was $1,128,937 plus an additional $198,177 for the last month's payment. Kathy, who is here at this meeting, because Kira was unavailable, does a great job in keeping our accounts receivable up to date. So if you had any questions about that, today would be a good day to ask those questions because Kathy is the best one to answer them. Looking at the claims approved by director, generally, we're seeing the same thing that we've seen. Our biggest payment monthly goes to the Hamburg Waste Solutions Group for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And this month, the other big payment was an interfund payment, interfund cost plan payment, which essentially pays the county for services like the IT services they're providing to Dine. Regarding our overall finances, again, you see the monthly reports, and one of the best ways to summarize how we're doing is looking at how our revenue's coming in. So once again, our two main sources of revenue are authority service fees at the Del Norte County Transfer Station and franchise fees, which are paid by Recology Del Norte. And in both cases, we continue to be ahead of budget. So in terms of the authority revenue, we're $29,000 ahead of budget currently on the service fees from the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And for franchise fees, we're $9,662 ahead of budget, which is really good considering this is the end of February that we're reporting on, and then the winter months tend to be the slowest months. So we're looking for an uptick in revenues in the coming months. I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Any questions for Mr. Ward? I just have one question, Mr. Ward. Back on our balance sheet, I noticed the increased number on our OPEB obligation. Is the reduction on the multiplier, is that factored into this post-closure liability, or will that be on next month's?
The post-closure liability, unfortunately, won't really be impacted on this balance sheet until after the next audit, because that's when the numbers all
Okay, so that's not, this number just stays constant. It's not updated once you get it. It's updated annually with the audit.
That's correct, sir.
So with this increased OPEB obligation, how are we balancing that out?
Well, my hope, or my intention, based on our actions of making that large OPEB payment, which I'm sure you remember, is that the calculated amount of the net OPEB obligation, I anticipate will go down significantly.
Okay. All right, good enough. Any other questions about our finances?
Well, since you did bring up OPEB, we had it on our last agenda. We talked about having some kind of, I don't know if we want to call it a workshop or what we want to call it, but it needs some deeper discussion. So I'm just wondering when we can have that agendized.
I agree. It deserves a deeper discussion, and probably the best time to do that is after we receive the next Bickmore report. So on the next month, I anticipate that we'll hire Bickmore to do our actuarial evaluation of our OPEB obligations, and then that report is a pretty good comprehensive overview about how those numbers come about and how they're calculated. And at that point, we'll have a much better insight as to how this additional payment that we made this year impacts our long-term liabilities.
Okay. And how long will that take for them to generate the report?
If I recall correctly, it's about 3 months after we hire them.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Keep us abreast of that, please. All right, any other questions about any of our financial items? Okay, let's move on to discussion and action items. Number 3.1. The letter regarding our multiplier, which we've already talked about.
I can't help repeating it, though. This letter reduces this agency's liability by $218,719. Even though
when you look at what that represents, that's significant position-wise for where we're going to need to be. So that's good news.
Very good news. And I really appreciate Cal Recycle's responsiveness to this, because essentially once the pledge of revenue was approved, I sent an email saying, so when can we get our multiplier reduced? And she says, well, if you send me a letter right now, we can do this all at once.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've ever seen a letter dated March 7th and a response on March 8th, but that's pretty impressive right there.
That's quick.
They work kind of like our government does, doesn't it?
That was great.
Or not. Yeah, I just making stuff up. All right. We don't have anything for collections?
no action required on that, sir.
Okay, nothing for collections. You want to give us an update on 5.1, the mattress recycling event, and talk a little bit about the letter that you sent to Assemblyman Bloom?
Yes, thank you. This has been our most successful recycling event for mattresses that we've held so far. We received 420 mattresses, and of those, 360 were recycled, and about 60 were landfilled. Our next event is June 16th. 420 mattresses were brought in for recycling on last Saturday's event. And so we received those generally for no charge, unless they were coming from Oregon. Of those, 360 were recycled, and about 60 were landfilled just because they were too dirty or too contaminated for the recycling process. An excellent question. So in a mattress recycling process, generally they rip all of the padding off, and then those textiles and fibers get sent to their recycling streams. And then probably the most recyclable portion of the mattress is usually the springs, which is a high-grade spring steel. And so they separate the steel springs from the other grades of steel that might be in it. And then the wood can be ground up and used as hog fuel. I believe the fabric materials can be used for making oil filters, particularly for locomotives. So the different commodities that make up a mattress are sent to different recycling streams. Some facilities do manual labor. More often it's automated at this point, in which it's sent through a tremendous shearing system, and then the commodities are sorted out and sent to their different streams.
So where are we sending them? They're not going down to Samoa?
No, they're not. I would have to, I'd have to look into that, but the Mattress Recycling Council did send up staff, and they helped us during the day, and they're the ones who arranged for the trailers, and the trailers got shipped off. Joel, do you know where they were headed? Okay.
So one more quick question. With them sending people up, then there's no cost to us to truck them out of here, right? It's all on them?
Right. Well, and that's really the nature of the letter that was that Chair Inscore was referring to Senator Bloom. Is it Assemblyman?
Yeah.
Bloom? Assemblyman Bloom. Essentially, he was having a hearing regarding the effectiveness of this mattress recycling program. And while we're delighted with the quarterly events, and we like them very much, it's important to realize that everyone who's buying a mattress in Del Norte County every day, they pay $10.50 per mattress or box spring to have daily recycling available. Most counties in the state have a location where you can bring in your mattress every day for recycling. There are other programs that they have so that they pay road departments to collect mattresses from the side of the road. But from the outset, we had a pre-existing contract with Hambro WSG for the cost to process a mattress, and that was always more than MRC was willing to pay. So part of my feedback to Assemblymember Bloom was, while we like this program very much, I feel that as long as a charge is being assessed every day, there should be a service available every day. And the best thing that we have at this point is there is a requirement under this law that if you order a mattress from a local retailer and they deliver that mattress to you, you can ask to have your used mattress or box spring collected for no charge. And so that is available every day, but that's all we've got. Other than that, we just have these quarterly events, and my opinion is it's up to the Mattress Recycling Council to make sure we have a daily program, and we need to have a daily program somewhere, whether it's at the Del Norte County Transfer Station or somewhere else in the county. It's still, as long as people are paying every day for that service, there should be a service somewhere in the county every day.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Ward?
So if we were to do that at the transfer station, would we require payment from
Yes.
Mattress Council?
MRC would have, right now, we have an existing agreement with Hambro that we intend to honor. And when they take a mattress, they get paid a certain amount. That's not the amount that MRC is willing to pay.
Gotcha.
So my view of it is fine. If they want to say, well, you're too expensive, we need to find somewhere else, fine. then they need to find somewhere else. It's either us or somewhere else. But what's not okay is saying, in fact, what they did, and that's part of the reason why I really wanted to offer this feedback, is they said, statewide, we are getting account surpluses. We've got multi-million-dollar account surpluses. Therefore, we don't need this high $11 fee. We should have it reduced to $10.50, which they were allowed to do. And I don't have a problem with that. But having them argue, well, we can't afford to provide the service on a daily basis here, and we have too much money in our accounts, so we should reduce our fees. And we, by the way, we still can't afford to do the service here. Well, that's not acceptable to me. That's not trying. That's not providing a program. And like I said, MRC staff have been fine. The programs are still inadequate.
Do you know, as far as Humboldt County, if they have it,
They have a daily program.
they have a daily? Well, since Recology is taking all the recycling down, like, what, 3 times a week, I wonder if that might be a possibility to work something out there.
I appreciate the creative thought, and my view is this is MRC's problem to solve, because they're the ones who have the money for it.
Okay.
And they have been in conversation with some local retailers and some other potential locations, and that's fine, but they need to close the deal.
Well, hopefully they can, but I'm just saying, as a fallback, it just seems like it might be, a more efficient process than what we currently have.
I appreciate the suggestion. I could raise the concerns I have in my mind, but I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I really
Okay.
appreciate the
Sure.
suggestion.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Ward. All right, so we're at 6.1, and from the information you gave regarding the posting of this, then it is my recommendation that we pull 6.1 for continuation to our next regular meeting. Do you need an actual vote on that, or is consensus to do that sufficient?
Yeah, we'll need a motion.
Okay, somebody,
So moved.
okay, I have a motion to move 6.1 to our next meeting or continue it. Do I have a second? Second. All right. Would you please pull the vote?
Chair Inscore.
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno.
Yes.
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Commissioner Cowan.
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa.
Yes.
All right, last item on our agenda is discussion regarding the 2018 Green Ribbon Awards, and there are several suggested nominations, and it may be that a member of the commission has an idea as well. So, Mr. Ward, you want to talk a little bit about Green Ribbons, and then...
I'd be happy to. So, this is an award this agency has given most years since the mid-1990s. And it is the only environmental award given by a local government agency in Del Norte County. So we like to acknowledge anything people are doing to help clean up the community, help improve recycling, help improve and expand composting, help improve reuse, recycling, product stewardship. All of those things that deserve recognition. This agency is just the perfect one to give people a pat on the back. As we were discussing amongst ourselves who is most appropriate for recognition, we started realizing how many community cleanup efforts there have been and how many groups have gotten involved in this. And rather than choosing one, we felt like it was appropriate to at least have one year where we're recognizing everybody. So that's the main thrust of this year's Green Ribbon Awards. Essentially, any group that has been actively involved in community cleanups, they're on the list. And then we've also added outstanding recycling service because we are so grateful and delighted that Hambro WSG stepped up to opening up that new buyback at the fairgrounds. And I think I have the hours wrong. I think it's 9 to 5 instead of 10 to 5, isn't it? Sorry about that. That recycling center is open 9 to 5 on Wednesdays through Saturdays at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds. And then Recology nominated Richard Knudsen from West Park Properties because he was doing an outstanding job informing all of the tenants in their properties about the proper way to recycle and to use that multi-family recycling option.
Good deal. Okay. Anybody have any questions about any of the nominees or any additions?
No, I absolutely agree with the director. I mean, this is a community effort. It's generated by amazing amount of community spirit, but still everybody's got to spearhead their own initiatives. In this case, recognizing everybody is, I think, the right direction to go this year.
Yeah.
There's just no one person that deserves credit. It's great to see that community spirit.
It sure is, and I am just so grateful, because, of course, we can't be there everywhere all the time. And so having citizen initiatives and community groups say, you know, this particular area is an eyesore and we can do something about it, just wonderful, just wonderful.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is really good to recognize that, you know, the whole group, and maybe even send out like a little word to the community that we'd like to have a longer list next year, so.
And while I put the names of some of the organizers, and if you have more names, I'd welcome them, my intention is also to recognize the group effort, and so anybody associated with these organizations who would care to attend the April meeting, I'm inclined to invite them as well.
Well, I can tell you every time that they go out, the big one, I know that Home Depot and Walmart both send groups.
Okay.
I know they've been involved in the cleanups.
Yeah, and they wouldn't necessarily have to be associated with one of these. We could give an award to each of them as individuals, as participating community partners who encourage their people to come to a variety of these
Yeah, they're doing
things.
different things.
I think that
The
if we're,
different groups are getting together.
it's a good point, Lori, thank you. I mean, if we're really trying to hit the highlights of the people who are spearheading these things, I think that recognizing both of those community
They do it
partners.
faithfully all the time.
Excellent.
Not around and wait.
Yeah.
Well then, Chair, I'd make that motion to, in addition to the list of current nominees, is to add also Walmart and the Home Depot, as Commissioner Cowan had suggested, into the list of nominees, and move to approve that.
Okay. Is there
list.
anything else, anybody, before we finish it up, can anybody think of anyone else? We've got a pretty comprehensive list.
I think that's a good start.
Okay, good deal.
Okay.
All right, we got a motion to add Walmart and Home Depot to this list. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We spend any money to do these awards?
Just the cost of printing and the time involved to give the award and smile and shake their hands.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, good.
Before you go forward, can I talk about something we've kind of just gone over?
Sure.
During this meeting?
Yeah.
Recycling. I'm reading the letters, it's not going down. It's getting bigger in the bin. What are we gonna do? I just
We
feel
will
like
be,
we're not doing
this will be
anything.
a fairly long item at the next meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Herbert was not available at this meeting, and
So
we
that's
were,
why we're not.
that's
okay,
why
I
we're
just
not
wanna
talking
make
about it.
sure, because I just think it's a conversation that needs to be brought up at every meeting. It's not budging, these numbers aren't budging, I'm reading the emails. It's a problem. I
You're
know,
sure right.
I just didn't want to pass over it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
And you had something about the May meeting?
Yeah, so May meeting, I personally don't want it so late in the day because I don't want to give it to SAC at midnight. That's the day we leave the county. And Mayor Enscore says he's going to be gone completely. So do we look at changing the date completely, or do we move it earlier? Chris likes to drive at night, but I hate driving at night, so I don't want
Yeah,
to leave here at 5:30 to head to SAC.
We're talking about the meeting that would normally fall on May 15th.
Yes.
We have, we're scheduled that day for our budget workshop on the 14th and 15th. So I will still be here on the 15th, but I would not be available probably earlier that day. And then I leave on the 16th and I won't be back.
The 14th.
Well, we're in workshop those 2 days, as our budget workshops are those 2 days. I'll be gone the rest of that month.
So do we go the week before,
May 8th?
May 8th, in the afternoon, we have a Board of Supervisors meeting? Yeah, I was saying we could do that.
Yeah,
3:30.
I only have agenda review, and I can move that around if we wanted to go to the 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
So May 8th at 3:30?
I don't get out of work until 4 o'clock on that day, so I'll be
You want to try 4 o'clock?
training. Well, 4:30 would work better. That way, well, Can we do 5? Because that would give me an opportunity to get home and then come here because I got to change.
I work at the board's pleasure.
Yeah, I'm good.
May, Eli?
Yeah.
May
it's
8th
fine.
at
Is
5.
5 o'clock okay?
Kathy, can you contact upstairs and make sure that's available then? Okay. Well, actually, we don't need to finalize this. We will put it on the agenda for next meeting, and we will find what the availability is around that date.
The other option for me would be on the 14th, on that Monday in the evening. We don't have a council meeting that night, but we could do it that afternoon on the 14th. That provides staff a little bit more time for the agenda, if that works for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, our budget workshop is during the day, so it won't be in the evening.
The 14th is what is it for me?
Okay.
That works for me as well.
So is there, Chris, do you have a preference between those two? Okay.
Staff preference would be the 14th.
Okay, well, why don't you look
Okay.
at those two dates, and then, and it sounds like Eli, could you do it that Monday?
Yeah, I can make it, but depends on the time. So it would be like 4:30 or after.
Okay, so why don't we look at those two times, 5 o'clock on the 14th or the 8th, and then you can either poll us, or if the room's not available, then that may determine for us. Okay?
Yes.
Is that all right with everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Anything else for the good of the authority? Mr. Ward, any final words?
Thank you all.
I'd
All
like
right.
to recognize the chairman's new haircut. That's,
I was going
good.
to say something. Thank you, Chris.
Thank Anthony for that. He makes the mayor look pretty good, so. All right, we're adjourned.